Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke, and as per usual, we've got our sunrise behind me. Really pretty colors out there this morning before, because it also had a cloud, so you kind of had this pinkish purple cloud that's kind of over this sunrise, which at this time of year when it's cold becomes this kind of red, orange, green. It almost becomes that. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Sam, or good morning/afternoon, Sam. And good morning, Leela. Yeah, it's just very pretty out there because it almost looks like. I think I said this the other day too. I always said I almost feel like when I look at the sunrise, it's almost like the aura of the earth. And it's funny, Melissa's with us. I know she does aura readings and stuff. And good morning, Leela, and hello, Sam. I mean, yes, it's so good to see all of you here. And yeah, it's so funny because I get up and I have the time to set up and everything, but this morning I just got barraged with messages because normally I'll get a message in the morning from like the two main guides who I have. Oh my God, I'd love to have an aura reading. Yeah, Melissa does these. She does them as part of her thing, and in fact, I'm going to be seeing you on Thursday, Melissa. So I'm very excited about that. It's really interesting. And good morning, Suda. I actually did a class last week. I did a class on auras with my intuitive development class. You know, the idea of seeing the energetic field, and it was kind of a funny class, and I think I talked about it. Yes, can't wait. Yes, that's gonna be great. And good morning, Alex. And the aura class was interesting as I told my students, I think, when did I see? I probably told my intuitive development students. I don't remember who I told what anymore. But we did have this interesting thing where they were trying to look at my aura, and both of my students, one who was seeing easily, the other one was having a little bit of a harder time, which, you know, it's typical. Not everybody is just automatically good at doing that. In fact, probably most people aren't, right? But but they both saw. They're like, there's like two people next to you, like one's really tall and one's not. Like it was like this really interesting thing, and they both saw it. And they're like, we can't concentrate on your aura because these people flashing, or these beings flashing over here. So, but it was interesting that both of them saw it, and they're like, yeah, it's like right over there. They're both pointing to exactly the same spot. I was like, okay, so it was really interesting, and how we had seen that. But I got a lot of messages this morning, so all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's 6:56. I'd better set up for the live stream. We are going to move, as I mentioned, as of Friday, we're going to move this to 7:30, okay? Because, and I know, I hope that works out. I mean, that may or may not work out for everybody, and I apologize for that. But I just, you know, we're moving towards Yule, towards the 21st of December, and so things are just going to keep getting darker and darker in the morning. And soon, you know, you'll be looking over my shoulder and it will look like it's night at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, maybe not quite that bad, but still. I just figured it would be better to, it would be easier if I could just do things while there's light in the room rather than having to use artificial light in the morning. So I'll probably start catching the recording. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sorry about that. Well, once we get back into spring again, we'll make it earlier. But it's just, yeah, it's, the setup is getting a little more complex, and you know, it's supposed to be morning coffee with Brigid, not campfire tales with Brigid. So I kind of feel that way. Like there's like a, you know, I mean, it's just a ring light, but I feel like there's like a flickering fire in front of me, you know, and it's like let me tell you some stories around the campfire. That's what I'm starting to feel like. So, and plus also, if part of what I want is to be able to watch the sunrise, then I'm not really watching it at this point. I mean, I'm watching some of it, but I did have a lot, you know, on my mind this morning because I was just kind of barraged by things. I always make the mistake of, a mistake I made was kind of like looking at social media this morning, and it was, the time change is coming up. Oh, good point, Melissa. That's right, because so if we fall back, actually, with the time change going back, maybe we could wait a little longer, because if we fall back, then like right now would be more like 6 o'clock. So actually, no, maybe we can keep it at this time for a little bit longer until we catch up with the time change. So let's amend that. I haven't sent anything out to update it. So yeah, so thank you for reminding me of that, because that's something I just didn't think about. But yeah, once the time change comes in, then it'll be a little lighter in the morning for a while. So yeah, so we won't have this issue. By the time we come on live, the sun will probably already be up. So yay! Okay, so yeah, well, hang in there for a little bit longer. We did have the ISFM class last night. We had the seminar, and it's the first time I've run the seminar. Trying to figure out, because I know what it is, I know what vision I have for it, and I was like, okay, let's try to move it in the direction of the vision. So, we had a couple people on here. Good morning. We had a couple of people from, I know certainly who was on. Alex was certainly on. I don't see that if Joanne is on this morning, and I don't know. Alex is on, and who else would have been? Pat. Pat's not on this morning, but yeah, we had our little informal seminar last night and did some exercises and stuff, and did some working with the concepts that we've been working with in the school so far, just to kind of get things kind of going, and spending time discussing in kind of a way that. I guess I'll use the term personal way. I guess in the way in which we talk about these myths, and the way I'm always interested in myth in terms of how does it affect our personal lives, right? How does it affect? Because myth is not just like some random story of stuff that people used to believe. This is not just some story you tell kids. Or there's something about mythology that is. That is meant to speak to the soul in some way, and a lot of times there's things about stories that at least that on the emotional level, on the intuitive level, that we resonate with, and that's the level at which change occurs. Okay, that's the level at which we can actually, as I've said, we can make change. We can talk about stuff, we can rationalize stuff. People who do cognitive therapies and things like that. You can do those things, but they take a very, very long time. I remember, I think it was Dr. Eller was talking to me about that. It was interesting and not expected what resonated with me. Yeah, Alex. Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's it. When we were talking about the kind of archetypes that were present in these stories, or the kinds of what the themes were, that's always my thing with myth. What resonates with you? And it can resonate one way or the other. It can be, yeah, I identify with this, or it can be like, ew, this really repels me, or wow, I'm really fascinated by this. Like, that's where the mystery comes in. Where's your pull? Where's your pull, or where's your repulsion, right? Anything that is extra strong on either side of that tells you something about how you respond to the myth. And so that is kind of what I work with. And I think anybody can do that with any kind of story in life. If there's something that you hear or see and it has a profound impact on your psyche, what is that? And, I think I had talked about this previously. I had done a podcast on for my patrons on priming, and the way in which you are set up to expect a certain thing psychologically, and how priming, it's used all the time. Like in marketing, it's used all the time in certain things. If you're good, you can spot it. But a lot of times, like if we're watching like a movie, like I think the thing I had talked about in the in the podcast was, if you're going in to watch a comedy, and then suddenly it starts turning into a horror flick. There are some comedians who do that, and who do it deliberately. Who are connected with Adult Swim and some of these other programs. And I can't remember the name of the guy now. It's not going to come to me, but. Because the thing is, you're in a position where you're expecting to laugh, and then instead now you're shown something where a completely different response, and you don't know, it like jams your responses. It's like you don't know what you're supposed to do. And a lot of times certain art like that is produced, and the reason for the production of that art is because that's the level at which your thinking is potentially able to change. Often our first reaction is to be repelled, or to be disturbed, or to turn it off and say, get it away from me. But as it kind of sinks into us, what it does is it breaks a hold on what our typical response is to a certain situation. It sort of it allows our association with a particular image, or our association with a particular thing. It allows us to to potentially break that, which is why art is so important. I was talking to I'll say my friend. I mean, I'm not online friend. We'll put it that way. Talking to him last night, or he messaging back and forth. And one of the things he had said to me about the kind of work that he does is he said, well, because he also makes music, and his thing was like, well, music is a very, that music is more for, like, okay, the certain work that he was doing was more meant for the community, and he says music is just more like something that's more I don't think he used the word selfish, but the implication was that making music is somehow not as important as doing certain other service things, right? Okay, I don't know how else to put it. And I was like, so I said to him, and he has not quite answered. I was like, okay, so are you suggesting then that when you make music that making art is somehow not something that's meant for the community? Like, that doesn't make, maybe in his case, maybe he just feels like, oh, well, if I did it, I'd be just doing it for me. And maybe that's what he meant. But I just thought it was really odd. I was like, well, if you're making music, I mean, yeah, not everybody's going to resonate with what you're doing. Maybe if there's a certain message, like people who write song lyrics, a lot of times song lyrics may or may not resonate with you. They may or may not speak to your experience. I find personally, I'm very sensitive to that. Music and art and everything, it's like, there's certain things that when I feel it, it's like when I feel something that's really authentic, it's like, wow, like I really, really feel it. But then I listen to other things where if I feel, I think this is why I don't like a lot of love songs, and why I don't like a lot of ballads, or a lot of the, the kind of the soaring voices, like your diva voices that we have. Kind of your Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, what's her name, Mariah Carey, whoever. I think the reason that I don't resonate with those voices is because I feel like there's an emotion in them for sure. And sometimes in some of them, there's some pieces that are a bit authentic, but most of them just for whatever reason, and people here may disagree with me. They may say, oh no, I hear that and I get so much out of it. And that's fine. I've had that conversation with people. But I just find that there's something in it that just, it feels false to me. And I think that's the way I tend to also feel about a lot of holiday stuff too. Like the way, parades and certain things, that it's just, or just certain kinds of showmanship where it's just literally meant to be acted and exaggerated in a way that, it almost imitates love, or it imitates certain feelings that people are supposed to have. And Sam says, because it's fueled by businessmen and sales rather than led by the heart. Yep, bingo. If Joanne was here, she'd say boom chakalaka, right? Yeah, exactly. That's it. And you can feel that. It may have started as an authentic piece of work. Well, yes, exactly, because a lot of times people are right. People get into a lot of things initially for good reasons, right? Exactly, an empty vessel, and it's and it's not being actually filled with anything either. It's not even. It's like more like a husk, It's because you could think of an empty vessel potentially as having potential, right? But this is more just like it's an empty shell of something. Really, it's just not. And I feel that. Now, again, there's some people who say to me, oh no, I hear that and I do get something out of it. Sometimes it's the association with a thing. Like if you're used to watching, like I watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade for years because that was just something I did from the time I was a child. It was on TV on Thanksgiving. That was the thing you watched while, mom was running around going crazy, getting set up for Thanksgiving, that kind of stuff. But as I've gotten older, I just find myself kind of disenchanted with it. I'm just, there's something about it that just doesn't, it feels fake. And then it usually is preceded by these network TV shows. And I don't have TV anymore, so I don't get to watch any of this anymore. Yay. But, like on the Today Show and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, we've gone to, this homeless, this person went to the homeless shelter, to this person who's sick, or this one and that. And again, you say, okay, well, those are all nice things that people are doing, that they're highlighting. The problem is it's being highlighted again for these, curated for this reason that it feels very, very false. It's like, here, look at the token homeless person that I helped. See, I'm in the spirit of the season. It's like my friend's son had said. He was like, yeah, so why don't you do this every day? Like, why is it like, oh, it's Thanksgiving, now maybe I'll actually think about helping people, there can be kind of this vibe here, and I understand it's supposed to be like the spirit of the season, but when it's corporatized like that, then there's just something that feels very phony, like you're trotting somebody out, Yeah, like someone's being trotted out, and they're showing them, look at this good thing that's going on. Look at this heartwarming thing that's going on. I'm like, why don't we talk about heartwarming stuff every day? Why is it only a news item on a day that's connected with the holiday, right? And that's kind of the problem of all of it. It's interesting. The BBC initially, when they started up, the idea was that they were going to be completely ad-free. Like there was going to be no commercials, there was going to be no anything, especially with children's programming, because they didn't want children to be infiltrated with this kind of corporate, shilling, like this selling of stuff. But then probably, what was it? The date was June 19th, and I'll tell you why I know this. And was it in the 50s? I'm trying to remember what the exact date was of the exact year. But that I think ITV started in Britain. And that was the first time that you were having these shows, like, the kids' puppet shows and everything that they would do on the BBC back in the 50s and 60s for kids. And then these started to have commercials in them. They started to have product placement. And now, of course, growing up in the USA, I grew up watching kids' shows with product placement all the time. In fact, I could go back and I still, remember certain commercials and certain jingles in the morning, like, oh yeah, I remember that, and they used to play that every morning. Whether or not it convinced me to buy the product or not is another thing. But I wouldn't have bought it. My mother would have bought it, right? But it was, but that was the moment at which, where TV goes from being a teaching tool to being a commodity, to being a sales tool. Okay. In a way, social media is a bit like that too, because we create content here, right? Like I'm here every day creating content. But there's also product placement. I mean, we're also, letting people know about services and stuff. There's like a commodification factor that's always brought into media, all right? And it's always one I've always kind of had an uneasy feeling about, because it's like, people have to know who you are and what you do if they're interested in what you do. But at the same time, trying to do a hard sell to people is never something I've been comfortable with, because I always feel like, people will come and get what they feel that they need. And I don't want to, and there's lots of people who are offering things very similar to what I offer. And, it'd be a matter of who you resonate with. There may be certain people who you feel like, you look at somebody and go, wow, that's somebody I want to work with. But there might be somebody different that you want to work with. So, anyway, it's just the idea that there's always been this kind of thing in the way that this very public-facing video, audio media is used. And music can be a lot of the same way. And I'm glad that Sam said that, because I was like, that is kind of what it is. It's just, it feels like it's just a cheaply made product in some way. Even if you've got like somebody who's got a great voice on it. And nowadays, one of the things that they talk about is the way in which pretty much everything is auto-tuned, pitch-corrected. I mean, certainly it's pitch-corrected, if not auto-tuned. Auto-tune is something that sometimes some artists do live. But when you hear it, you can hear it if you're really listening. Max Orsini and I had talked about this, and he had said, he said, oh, well, because he also makes music. He has a new album that's out. And he had said, well, but the producers have told me kids today don't even know what a non-pitch corrected voice sounds like. And it just cuts studio time, because studio time is expensive, And he said, so it's something that just speeds up the process. But my other friend doesn't agree with that. He said, no. He said, I do think people do know an authentic voice. That's why everybody's going back and listening to the 60s and 70s. But like I said, there's people, good morning, Pat. There are people who are, you go back to that, who want to go back and listen to that music. That's why you have all these reaction channels and stuff, right? Reacting to, whoever from whatever time period. And we get drawn, the people of our generation get drawn in by it because we're like, oh, look, they're reacting to Janis Joplin or Led Zeppelin or, whoever, And although those back catalogs, depending on what record company owns them, I think Sony bought out. Sony is actually a big offender. They went, I think they bought Queen's catalog, and now they're going back and pitch correcting Freddie Mercury's voice on everything. And the problem with that is that when you do that, you can hear the difference. Yep. What? Yeah, I know. Sam is saying, what? Yeah. They're doing it, and it's not going to stop there. They had a channel, too, that was covered recently called First Takes, where it's like, we have no editing, no filtering. These are just the artists live, performing, recording. And then they use the word performing instead of the word, like, singing or recording, right? There's the semantics there. But they were... which is supposed to be just a totally natural, unedited take. And again, it's been proven that no, that First Takes is a complete, the idea that it's a first take is fraudulent. This is absolutely a pitch corrected thing. And the thing is, there's two things. Like, you're bringing sometimes people in who can't sing, but maybe have a particular look, and you use pitch correction and stuff to make them sound right. Then you're taking vocalists who can sing, and you're making them sound... it gets rid of all of the emotional nuance in the voice, like being a little sharp and being a little flat. This is what I've learned from this channel. That's where the humanness comes in, because nobody can sing perfectly. When we talk about standard tuning, which I think is A440, when you talk about standard tuning, that is a piano. That's like somebody playing a piano. You're not a piano. You're a human being. You have a human voice. You have different inflections and so forth in your voice, and it's those so-called imperfections that actually make it unique, that give you the real emotion. This whole thing of, oh no, everything has to be pitch corrected and perfectly to the line. It's because it's like you're putting like a plastic coating on it, like you're selling a product, and that's just kind of what it is. And that's, I think this is why I get so concerned about personal creativity, no matter how imperfectly done. Okay, obviously we want to do our best, and if we're going to share something, we want to do what we consider to be our best crack at it, or our best job at it. And even then, there could be some imperfections, and you know what? That's fine. There needs to be maybe what we're kind of getting at here is that for something to be so-called flawed, we all feel like nothing. Things can't be flawed. Everything has to be perfect. Everything that we do has to be perfect. Everything we take on has to be perfect. If it's creative, it has to be perfect, whatever that is. We have this obsession with things having to do that, and that's what we're using technology for, to make ourselves perfect, to make things perfect. And it's not just in that field. Now, in art, you can use certain things creatively. Okay, you can, like, for example, people use Photoshop all the time. Photography is a type of an art. It's because some people might just say, oh, well, you're not standing there painting a picture, you're just photographing it. Yeah, but photographing things the right way, with the right light and the right lens, the right conditions, being aware of things like lighting and so forth is very, very important if you want to take a good photograph. Photography, people who just say, oh, well, you can just get a camera and snap a picture and see, you're a great photographer. Well, no, you're not. You have to, trust me, a lot of the photographs, if I don't have somebody who has some kind of professional photographing credentials, or somebody who at least has an artistic eye taking a photo of me, somehow they always come out, I'm like, I can't stand full body photos of myself. I'm like, I don't look like, I know that's not how I look, how I'm coming across in this photo, but it has to do with the lighting, and, maybe my eyes are squinting and different things. There's different ways that people do things that are that they don't. There is an art to it, right? There's a subtle art to certain things, even if you think, oh well, you're just taking a machine and doing this. Trust me, there's a difference between taking a picture with your phone, taking a picture with a professional camera, taking a Polaroid. Especially if you're using film, it's not so easy. Yes, exactly. When you're using 110 or 35 millimeter. Photography is an art, absolutely. This was an argument somebody was making on another channel where they were saying, oh, well, that to say that using technology to help with singing is not, that's like saying that, that it's cheating to use a camera. And I'm like, no, I don't think that analogy holds up. because it is an art. When you go into Photoshop and do things, I mean, you're using filters to create a certain effect, but you're just doing it digitally. That's not the same as like you can use a technological tool to listen to a song and say, ooh, this sounds like this should be a little bit here. Good morning, Joanne. This could be a little bit, higher here or lower here or whatever. Or, oh, maybe that sounds too flat. We need to fix it. But frequently they don't even listen. They just drag everything to the line. And then you listen to artists whose voices I think a recent video I saw was about Bryan Adams. And we all know Bryan Adams. Well, maybe not everybody does. But if you know Bryan Adams, he has this kind of very unique, kind of raspy kind of voice. And when I heard the way that his 2023 concert was done, this was like some footage of that, I was like, that doesn't even sound like him. Everybody sounds like a machine. And that's the point. That goes back to the whole thing we were talking about. Now, I mentioned before, like, why I knew that the BBC changed on June 19th. Because there's one of those series that is meant to be. Good morning. Sorry, I'm late. Totally restless night. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's. I'm glad you could make it this morning. And it was there. So the June 19th thing. There was a TV. It was a little puppet show, that art project that somebody did on YouTube, and you can still find it. It's a channel called Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. And it is one of those things I was talking about where a certain expectation is set up and then all of a sudden it changes. And particularly the first episode, which is actually about being creative, that's what it's called. So it starts out like this British kid, and the thing is the June 19th date is everywhere. And so the thing is, and you're and everybody's kind of wondering, like, there's all these videos trying to decode what this series is about, right? It's almost like becomes like a game, almost like an alternate reality game or something. But you have these puppets, and they're all sitting around the table, and there's like a big red guy, and then there's like this duck who's like green, then there's like this kid like in overalls who's yellow, and the three of them sitting around this table, and then these different things that happen, and it's actually profoundly disturbing in a lot of ways. But the creativity one, you watch it and it starts out, this little notepad flips open and they talk about being creative, and they're singing a little song, but as the song is going on and stuff, there's just different things that are happening that you're kind of like, wait, what just happened here? Why did that happen? And then when they all sit down to be creative, then it's like, what just happened? Like it just completely goes very, very dark. And so but the whole point of that was that there's different episodes where like the red guy will walk in and we'll see like that around the table there's like a mop representing him and a light bulb representing this one, and just realizing that all of it is like within a room and within a camera, and then you see the camera lenses change. And the whole idea is just the way in which children's programming and the way in which children are appealed to becomes dark. It becomes dark as soon as you start bringing in this kind of other agenda into it. And it really slams that home in a way that is, well, again, that's the whole point of art. The art is supposed to, that's why when they say art disturbs you, that's kind of the point of it. It's there to show you that something has, that whatever the original, it was like kind of like what Sam said earlier, whatever might have originally been authentic and pure in intent. Well, I'm just going to use the word pure, but just where somebody had an intent that was to make art, to do a thing, to express something. And then when it then suddenly becomes packaged and commodified. I think that's too with the school. I'm like, don't worry so much about whether or not you're going to sell something. Because now I understand about reach and audience reach and wanting people to hear what you have to say. But when there's too much of a focus on how much cash you're going to bring in from it, then it's not that thing anymore. It's becoming this other kind of commodity. And you kind of just have to let it gain its own momentum if it's going to. You make the thing and then you talk about it, right? But I don't know. It's interesting. But I was giving a lot of thought to that. I was also, technically, I'm not going to get onto this subject, but politics is like that as well. Yes, the pressure to be liked by the masses, well, and the pressure to make money. A lot of times, like with music, a record deal is based on how many sales do you make of that album. And if you don't make enough sales, even if you made great songs, they're like, okay, well, you're dropped. My understanding, though, is like a record deal is like a loan. It's basically the record company's giving you a bunch of money to do something, and it has to be paid back, So when it becomes something like that, then it turns into something very, very different. But what was I saying? I was talking about the commodification. Oh, yeah, right. I was going to say that politics can be like that too. You can get somebody who runs for office because they want to bring genuine change to a system, right? They're like, well, I don't like the way things are, and I'm here to bring a new fresh face and some new ideas and change. But then it ends up becoming the same old, because that tends to be corrupted by money and so forth. Suda said, my daughter paid me a compliment about a few poems I had written, and that's worth its weight in gold. Nice, yeah. In fact, we were writing poems last night. I think, we were doing some people writing poems last night, and right, exactly. You're writing them for you having the people you care about are the people who are seeing them. It's not just somebody from the outside who may have a certain agenda or point of view or something on them. And poetry is quite a difficult thing to write. Because some people can do it, are naturals at it. I don't know. I think because I'm so verbose, I'm better at prose than at poetry. But poetry, yeah, it's about trying to paint pictures in words, and or paint stories in this kind of compact kind of a space, which is interesting. Let's do our reading for today. But yeah, what I had seen online was, I think it was a piece from Joseph Campbell is what I had run across. And one of the things he had talked about was the Grail quest and the way in which there's when you are on the path, when you are on a very authentic path. Now you may have people along the way who can be supportive of you, but ultimately we all make that journey alone, because the journey has to happen in terms of how we experience it with ourselves, within our own body. Other people can tell us how things are, that you're doing this great thing or this great thing. That's reflecting something back at you. Or somebody could say, oh, I hate what you're doing, whatever they say. But ultimately, whatever's going on, whatever transformation you go through, whatever decisions you make, have to be felt in here. And sometimes I think we feel like we're making that journey and we're not supported on it. And that's because the spiritual journey, but we're going to call it the spiritual journey. I realize I'm sometimes hesitant about that term because there's a lot of terminology. It can be used in a very cliche kind of way. But the authentic journey that the soul makes is one that the soul, to some degree, has to make alone. Just kind of like death is a journey that people make alone. Like nobody goes with you, It's something you do alone. And that was and I think that's the thing too, when people talk about feeling kind of alone or isolated, it's not so much that you're alone. There are people around you who care about you and support you, and that is an important thing to remember. But the internal journey may be something that you're doing alone, and sometimes that's hard because that means facing what's in shadow. That means facing things about ourselves in that quiet space. Not everybody likes that quiet space. Sometimes people just want to be distracted and filled with a lot of different things. But then but it's a matter of sorting out what you authentically feel you need to be doing versus what everybody else tells you should be doing. So this is why there has to be almost that separation there. And sometimes if you do something that's very different or very outside the script, and we were talking a little bit about this last night, then you become, you may find that certain people, they may suddenly not support you, or they may turn away or do certain things. And I think we need to be, and so therefore, and this actually segues right into today's reading. We need to have courage. It's our first card here. There needs to be courage. When you're in a space where you don't feel like there's anything, managing to grow in a space where you feel like the conditions for growth are not right, that they're not conducive, right? Out of this, through the rockiness, that you are actually able to flower and to do something. And again, when you're talking about creativity, sometimes that rockiness is something that that can actually almost, in a weird way, it can almost be a fertile ground for it, because if we just went along in our lives, we're boring every day, and we just, we might not actually. I mean, I don't know. I think even in the mundane, you can still find something for that. You can find the makings of art, but sometimes it's not. Anyway, we can empty ourselves enough to kind of have that come through. But a lot of times too, it takes something that really impacts us emotionally to be able to do this. Courage is a big one for you. Thank you. Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a word that I'm hearing a lot right now, and that I'm seeing it. My guides are even saying right now. Because the inner feeling of which we're unaware, okay, we have something to share here, This is the Queen of Wands. You have something to share. She's got the light that she's sharing, and she's also got this kind of cornucopia, she's got all the kind of fruits here. This is what's internal. This is what wants to be expressed. Or actually, maybe it is being expressed, because this is external. This is what we're aware of, creativity, This is about sharing what's this, this is fire element, right? So this is the fire that's inside of us. This is about sharing that fire. So we have to look at our possibilities. Okay. There's our, the eagle soaring again, the two of wands. These are a lot of the same cards coming up. So, there's kind of a repeat message here, flying above, getting above, standing on the mountaintop, looking at the big picture, and standing in your space and seeing things, and seeing them as if you are seeing them for the first time, okay? Because we're back to innocence. I had a thought with this, actually, about Pisces, Aries, because we have a lot of planets. Saturn, in particular, is going to be moving out of Pisces into Aries. And if you think of the old man as being Saturnian, as being, Father Time, for example, or the old man with the wisdom, the Senex archetype. But he's sitting there looking at this little grasshopper in the same way that a child would. And to me, we always think of Aries energy as being what is sitting on his hand. It's a grasshopper. It's a little grasshopper. Could be a mantis, I guess, but I think it looks a little bit more like a grasshopper than a mantis. Sure. But it's kind of the way that he's looking at it, with kind of the wonder, like looking at it through the eyes of a child, just kind of and he's kind of smiling at it. And we often associate Aries energy with, aggression and ambition and things like that. But Aries is the first house. It's the first sign of the zodiac. And I was reminded by an astrologer last week that this means that it's new. It's about, it's what's coming in that's new. It's new ideas. It's fresh ideas. It's the horizon. It's spring. It's the new thing that's coming up. Now, I did a podcast for Catonia on the storm hags of the north. And one of the interesting features of those stories was that the storm hag is somebody who, it's a storm that comes in just at the end of winter, just before the solstice, either the solstice or the equinox. So like in Michigan or northern Pennsylvania, like Lake Erie, that area, there is I think some of the other Great Lakes have this as well. They have the idea of the storm hag who comes up, and I think that frequently happens in November. But that is before the winter solstice, before the return of the light, right? That's kind of at the darkest point. In Scotland, Ireland, places like that, you're talking about this appearance of the hag in the storm, which usually comes as this very sudden and violent storm that can just suck up ships and just destroy them in an instant. It comes up just before the beginning of spring. And we can think of something less dramatic too. Think about certainly if you live in New Jersey or in this area, how many times you can go through a whole winter and it's pretty mild, it's maybe some snow, not very much. And then all of a sudden the spring equinox hits and you get slammed with like 20 inches of snow, right? That kind of a thing can happen. And it's the way in which we have that, as we're making that last push, there's this very sudden, like, cataclysmic thing that comes up, and either it's going to take out whatever it's going to take out, or if you or it's something that you're going to survive, but it's something very, very unexpected that just kind of comes in. And I always think of that as that kind of, I don't know. I mean, I suppose that kind of a thing is more Uranian energy than Saturnian, but but I'm thinking about where everybody has kind of been at, and we're all waiting for this new beginning. And in waiting for this new beginning, it just feels like we're waiting to see if the storm hag is going to come up, right? Is there going to be a big thing that's going to just come and swallow everything up before the new beginning comes in? Because whenever the old is going out, there's cycles that are being completed. There's right now seems to be more of a time of there's stuff we need to get done, and if that's a lot of like what the Christmas tales that you see. I'm wondering where the October surprise is. If you're talking politically, there's about 50 things that people are pointing to about what it could be. Otherwise, I think this is something that's going to be kind of, because we've got this energy influence that's happening right now. Actually, this second comet's supposed to be passing the sun. So, yes, pre-election. Yeah, I've actually seen at least from the beginning of October to the end, there's at least I've heard of at least 10 different things that could be a surprise. So, yeah, so I guess maybe pick which one, But we're moving into this new space, and I think what there's a sense of like a calm before a storm, but really on the other side of it is this Aries energy. It's this new space that we're going to be in. And I think what's going to get swallowed up by the old, at least that's the message that I'm getting, are those that are resistant, that are, refuse to move forward, refuse to move. It's like you're not getting on the train. You're going to be left behind, right? But there just seems to be getting all these messages about, and I don't want to make this sound like I'm predicting some violent cataclysm or something like that, because I'm not. But there's definitely going to be an upheaval. Like even this morning, I keep getting hoggle, which is the storm. It's like, but the storm is going to open things up. It's going to clear things, and then he's referring to it as a storm connected to fire. That's the other thing that was important that came up in readings this morning for me and in messages, was that this new moon in Scorpio, which is happening Friday. I mean, we are definitely at the end of the cycle here. Samhain is also the dark of the moon, which is Halloween. I mean, that's Thursday. It's also the dark of the moon. So it's the harvest. It's the end of the old year, beginning of the new year, and it's also happening when there's the end of one moon and the beginning of another moon cycle. And it's in Scorpio, and it's particularly potent Scorpio. So probably they were saying by mid-November is when this cycle is going to calm down, but we still have a lot of action. Mercury's going to go retrograde this month, and we're going to have a lot of retrograde planets that are not going to totally go direct until about mid-April. So, so there's still going to be this, as we move into this new space, again, Pluto is changing signs, I've heard. Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the big news. That's changing signs on the 19th of November. That's going to be moving into Aquarius for the next 200 years. So, 200 years. Listen to me. 20 years. I'm adding an extra zero there. That's going to be like, we've been in Capricorn for a very long time, and now it's going to be for about 16 years, and now it's going to be in Aquarius for about 20. So, but we've also got Saturn moving into Aries next year, and that's a big thing. Neptune's also moving into Aries. So this is about new imagination, new ideas. And I think this is why a lot of people say, we look at the situation, we're like, oh God, it's going to be the same old, blah, blah, blah. That's why I don't think it's going to be the same old, same old. I think we're being told, and the fact that the child motif is coming up over and over again too for us is like, there's this space of the child. You want to you want to look at things. We're not looking at things that, oh man, 2008 to today in Capricorn. and was rough emotionally. Yeah, and a lot of it too might depend also on where Capricorn was in your chart. For me, Capricorn, in my Western chart, it's actually in the 7th house. In my sidereal chart, it's in Sagittarius. But yeah, and my Aquarius is actually in the 8th house. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting for me. It'd be interesting to know. We have done your chart, Suda, so I'd have to go back and look. And Pat says, "Oh, that explains a lot of things in my case." Yeah, because a lot of times that's why I think it's beneficial for people to, whether they do just a regular astrological chart, whether they have their, like I do the life path reports for people and stuff, but, and I know a couple people here have had those. I'll look too. Yeah, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, go back and look at the report that we did, because where Capricorn is, and it's very easy to go on a site like astroseek.com, plug your birth information in, and then plug today's date in and just see where the planets are for you right now. You can easily do that too, like with reference to what you had. Pluto is also an outer planet, so big generational themes as well. Yes, exactly, and it's the outer planets that are. This is where the big changes are coming. These are the big guns. Saturn, well, actually Jupiter too, the gas giants. You have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So they're all these are all planets of change that is more collective than individual, although it can and does affect us individually. I just wanted to pull a angel card for today, and we have Sariel is our angel. And let's just see, he's actually number 1 in here, so what's the message? The dark night of the soul angel, wow. Message, although you may feel like you have abandoned hope, do not abandon yourself. You are being cracked open to reveal your depths. Treasures await you on the other side of this deep initiation. For Pat, it's astro-seek, SEEK.com. And it's one where you can do your own astrological chart. AstroSeek, yeah, Suda has it there. And I think even if you just type it in that way, I think there's a hyphen in it, but it'll still come up the right way. So, yeah, so that's interesting. This dark night of the soul. I think, yeah, that's probably a good way to describe it. We're in this space where you're afraid that, oh, what if it all falls apart? What if I'm abandoned? What if this happens? What if that happens? But you just have to remember you're at the end. This is the storm kind of at the end. And some of us may have felt this calm, before these storms that are coming in, but we are moving into a new space. And again, it's going to affect everybody differently. But that's why I'm seeing in a lot of readings and things that I'm doing is like, for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, we're ready for the Aries energy. We're ready for the new space. We might have to wait a little bit. The dark before a new dawn makes me think about the pillar of salt. Don't look back. 100%, Alex. Right. Lot's wife. Don't look back. Don't look back at the burning city. Just keep going. All right. Being Suda, thank you and thank you. Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, because obviously, I mean, I can do these things for people, but there are free tools that you can do it for yourself too. And that way you can see it. And then of course, if you've had the life path with me and stuff, and you have questions, you can always ask me questions about what's in that report and the chart and everything. I'm totally happy to do that. But check it out, because then you can see where your current transits are and so forth. Okay, so I've kind of talked around a number of things today, but I think we were basically just talking about, again, authenticity. And I think we keep talking about corporatism because I feel like that's an idea that's getting old and stale. And I think we just need to, I think one of the things we're going to be fighting for Pluto and Aquarius is not to be in the space of allowing the machines to replace our humanness and our creativity. It's like, don't let that get corporatized as well, But yeah, I feel like we're on the edge of a major change here. So if things happen to feel very, very tense right now, or if you see certain things and you wonder, oh, is there really going to be a change? Are things really going to be different? I do think it's saying, like what I'm getting is, but what I literally got this morning is, after this new moon, we're kind of, we're moving towards joy. Like, don't be afraid of what's happening here. Because it's just, but they did say, it could seem like there is this darkness before the dawn. So, my Scorpio reading for this week was spot on. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I never know how that is. So, So if you want to check out my readings on Liminal Tarot, I did Scorpio, so good to know it's spot on. I haven't, because I'm not a Scorpio, and I know a lot of Scorpios, I guess, but I never, sometimes I find when I'm doing the readings, like if I know somebody who's a particular sign, as I'm doing the reading, I start thinking like, oh, I wonder if that's what's going on with this person or that person. But with Scorpio, I always find that, I don't know, it's a little bit more, I'm reading it and I'm going, okay, I hope this makes sense, but apparently it does, so that's good. With that, I'm going to finish up. I just heard that they've come to pick up recycling, and it's about 10 to 8, and my sister's coming to meet me for our 10:30 walk, and I have a whole bunch. Alex, thanks, Brigid. Agreed, Scorpio reading was wildly accurate for my rising sign, and Libra sun was also on point. Cool, yeah. That's I'm glad that they're accurate and they're resonating. I feel a little more comfortable with these. Thank you. Yes, and have a great day. Yep, thanks. Have a good day, everyone. And and I will see some of you soon, and I will talk to some of you soon. So have a wonderful, today's Tuesday. Yeah, have a wonderful Tuesday and rest of your week, and see you soon. Take care.